If you don't want
you don't have to pay. You can grind.
You can earn gold, and you don't even have to grind. Good. You can just play fun stuff. Play fun stuff.
What's up guys, Deroir here, and welcome to another episode of Hype Time. This time I have a couple of things I want to talk with you guys about. One of which may raise some concerns, but I'll get to that in a bit. First off, this Friday we got a full 25-minute walkthrough of the new World vs. World Borderland, along with a first look at this new crazy siege weapon, the shield generator. Imagine that thing used on a Cirque? Ouch. In episode 11 I talked about the features of this map, along with my thoughts and speculations about it. Specifically, I voiced my concerns about the pros and cons of the defender's incentive that Revenant is aiming to strengthen in these Borderlands. So obviously, one thing that stuck out to me in yesterday's live stream was the fact that the devs said that in the process of building this map, they did keep in mind that defenders shouldn't be more overpowered than necessary. And so it does seem to me like they have a really clear overview of the dangers that a too strong defender's incentive might lead to. Now, I won't talk too much about the features of this map in this episode, but do feel free to go check out episode 11 where I go through the entire thing. Also, I would definitely advise you guys to go check out the walkthrough in its full length. It also contains a sneak peek of some of the dinosaurs. So I left a link in the description down below for you guys. Well, one subject I also want to talk about that some of you guys following me on Twitch might know, I got to play the first closed beta this week. And even though it didn't really contain much else than the stuff that was in the demo showed off at PAX and Rest, I still really appreciated finally getting to try and test out the Revenant, especially since I've been hyping about it for quite some time. It was awesome playing it. The sheer power and resourcefulness of the Revenant's mechanics was just straight up amazing. Easy access to buffs, providing permanent swiftness and stability along with loads of might stacks. The mobility and CC effectiveness was one of the highlights for me, especially with the mace axe combo, easily shadow stepping in to align all your foes in front of you, giving you the opportunity to blast and cleave them down. But I couldn't help but think to myself that this was probably only the beginning of how mobile Revenants will actually be. And I strongly believe we actually got a great look at how fast the Revenant might actually end up being in combat through these creatures. Just check this out. Bam! That thing is all over the place. Well, the last characteristic that was quite noticeable for the Revenant was the crazy amount of conditions that you were able to deal out, which in turn also led to a very keen eye discovering the fact that Arena had actually changed the condition cap for some of the creatures in the demo. To which John Peters quickly came out to say that we know that the current stack cap creates problems for condition players who wants to work together. What you saw today was the first test in solving some of these problems. Even if this is only going to change for bigger bosses and champions, this is still a huge thing. If anything is going to challenge the current meta of many professions, it's certainly going to be this change. Obviously, this is still being tested, and so everything is susceptible to change. But still, I'm just very excited that they're actually looking to rework the condi caps. As for the next beta event, I think it's probably going to be testing out the new World vs. World Borderland, since it's actually very far along in the process. Though the environment artist Tirsa did say that.
And I'm adding more. I'm at that stage where I can just start noodling with it and just having a lot of fun.
Which does imply that this map is not entirely done just yet. So apart from the beta testing and the walkthrough, we got one very distinct and interesting blog post just a couple days ago. I'm of course talking about all the information we got about the legendary precursor scavenger hunt. Ever since the expansion announcement, we've known that there was going to be some sort of scavenger hunt for the precursors tied to the upcoming mastery system. But till now, we basically haven't heard any other details about it. So let me give you guys a quick overview of the new details. What they're going to do is introduce one collection achievement for each legendary. Each of these collections has 3 tiers, which individually are linked to 3 different aspects of the story or theme of the specific legendary that you're aiming for. Now, these collections aren't necessarily going to be simple stuff that you can just buy off the trading post. Nope, you'll have to travel the world of Tyria and accomplish different tasks, quests, events, and so on. As an example of this concept, we got a sneak peek of the Moots collection. The Moot is thematically tied to a Norn celebratory event bearing the same name. And so, amongst the things you'll have to do to complete this collection is stuff like showing your dance moves off to Queen Jenna, light off fireworks to honor the different spirit animals, consume alcoholic beverages, and other party related things. Apart from a legendary actually finally becoming more of a journey than just a grind fest, the next best thing being added to this system is the fact that all of these precursors produced through this collection will be account bound. This goes for all the old precursors, but also all the new ones coming into the game. In the blog post, Revenant specifically announced that there will be new legendary weapons. Yes, weapons. This of course does not rule out the possibility of them also adding legendary trinkets, like many people have speculated, but there aren't many details about this so far. One thing they did say though was that the methods by which you'll craft these legendary weapons are similar to the existing system, but we've refined it into more of a journey similar to precursor crafting. But this refined system is said to also result in legendaries that are going to be account bound. Now they say that it's going to be this way so as to increase the prestige of actually having one, which I definitely agree with. But for this system to work, basically everything required to make them should also be non-tradable objects or quests. This thought opens up a whole array of questions for me, some more prominent than others. Some of the things used to gate the process of personally crafting one of the current legendaries is stuff like dungeon tokens and world vs world badges, stuff that actually made you go out into the world. Well, in the blog post about legendary weapons, they also mentioned new map bonuses. That just seems like a somewhat odd combination of topics to me. Well, just like we've seen in Drytop and the Silver Waste, map bonuses are a great way to incentivize players to actually return to a given map and spend loads of time there. Much more so than the regular world bosses, which were also implemented to liven up lower level maps. The details of the specific changes are loosely brushed over with an example of you currently having to gather loads of T6 materials for your legendary. And now some of these map bonuses might provide these things. What if all of these maps, or just some of them, will contain individual map currencies or region currencies? These region currencies would then be used in purchasing specific parts for the new legendary weapons, and thereby substituting stuff like dungeon tokens and world vs world badges for bandit crests and geodes. I mean, honestly, why else would they have included this part about the map bonuses in this specific blog post about legendary weapons? It just seems somewhat misplaced. Now, I know this may sound very worrisome to a lot of players out there, especially those of you who might have hated the super grind through Drytop just to get those insect weapons, myself included. And so before I expand this theory and put a final nail in the coffin for you guys just looking for comforting words now, let me just say I'm sorry, but take a look at this quote. We've been working hard on new legendary weapons, the first handful of which will be introduced in Heart of Thorns, with more to come in subsequent updates. What does this say exactly? Here's my theory, and honestly, the consequences of it worries even me. When Heart of Thorns eventually launches, we will only see some of the legendary weapons appear. Now, why is that? Well, if we are to go with the idea of these map or region specific currencies being implemented into the game with Heart of Thorns, this may also imply that we might not get to see the full game once the game launches. Think 3 to 5 very detailed maps, including Verdant Brink, few or no dungeons or raids, and possibly not even the Mordramoth fight. The rest of which, along with the rest of the legendaries and possibly even the final fight, will be added with the living story. Revenant have specifically said that all future living stories will require you to own Heart of Thorns. This subtle little detail has honestly been the first clear hint towards something that many players have feared for quite some time now, that the expansion will only gradually evolve. Now, I said that the possible consequences of this admittedly do worry me. But don't misunderstand me, I'm not necessarily against this happening. Quite a few previous games have successfully done this before. But the major difference between these games and Guild Wars 2 is that you don't even have to pay a subscription fee while you wait. Sure, to many people, the best and coolest thing about getting any new game is blasting through the story immediately. But just stop for a second and think about the multitude of features that we already know is going to be added to the game along with new maps. And then compare it to your experience of you farming all the bandit crests for your full luminescent armor, or simply just understanding the Silver Waste's intricate mechanics. Cutting the experience of not only the story flow but also the learning curve of the new game and the map mechanics into separate temporal sections will let players dedicate attention to some future aspects of the game that might be tougher to grasp. And at the same time, the game won't feel like it's just cluttered up with 1,000 new things to learn. Of course, a lot of people do enjoy just being thrown into the fray of this, and may just consider the learning curve to be a problem for casuals. But don't get me wrong here, I'm not trying to endorse a casual approach to the game or the mentality of everyone should get everything, to which, for the sake of this argument, I have to note that I am strongly against. On the contrary, what I want is players with an incentive to actually get better at certain content instead of just mindlessly rushing through the entire thing. Providing time for players to actually progress in the mastery system and learn the new specialization skills might result in ArenaNet actually building the groundwork for the fight we all want. A fight that will require a much higher skill level and the acquisition of a whole bunch of mastery points to even consider going into this battle. Simply because of the positive possibilities that this system could provide, we might expect to see the final battle against Mordramoth being more epic than anything we've seen in this game before, or any game for that matter, with everyone having to just fly everywhere, shoot stuff specific places, and you know what I mean. This is the ideal I believe we as players should strive for and should want from this game if the expansion does end up being split up. Also, on a bit of a side note, if this is how they do it, we might also expect to see the expansion launch a lot sooner than we expected. What worries me is not the experience of this. What worries me is the immediate player feedback if this is announced. Obviously, many players will definitely not approve of this. I too was on that bandwagon for the longest time, but personally I believe that what will be launched at first will still take up so much time and dedication that we won't even notice the temporal split in the story. But what do you think? Do you simply want the full expansion immediately, or do you want to partake in an actual living world? I would really love to hear your guys' opinion on this, so leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I still have a million unanswered questions and thoughts on my mind regarding this, all of which I would love to discuss with you guys. But for now, thank you all for watching. Until next time, I will see you in the mists.